Hi guys, welcome to another Askzenler. So in this workshop, what I want to look at is going to be responsiveness. There's a lot of questions regarding how your site looks on mobile, tablets and desktops. So I want to actually clarify what's going on with your site on these particular topics. So what I have here in front of us is a blank page, and we're just going to look at how blocks work for a responsive design. Okay, so we're also going to throw in a few problems that people have and the reason that that happens as well. So by the end of this workshop, you should be fully clear on what is actually happening with your site, and you should be able to resolve problems that you have with your site. So let's jump into this now and start to look at responsive behavior inside of Zenler. So here we go. I just have a simple block set up. So let's just go and add a row to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one row, 3 columns. And inside here, I'm just going to drop in a row. So I put a row inside a row. I'm going to go and select that row that's inside that row, and I'm going to just put a color into it. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just showing you how the behavior of the system works. So we're going to put a red block in here. Okay, I'm going to duplicate, or I'm going to add another row in here, a single row again. So we got a row inside a row. I'm going to go and color this block, and you've guessed it, I'm going to do exactly the same for the last block. So let's go in here and add an element. So as you can see, I can add a row inside a row. Now, this is quite handy for you to know as well. So I'm going to click the gear icon, I'm going to go down to my colors, and I'm going to select a blue in this case. Okay, so that's done. So I've done nothing special. I've just created one row with 3 columns, and I've put a row inside, and that's it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add an element in here. So I'm going to add a heading element, and I'm just going to call this the color that it is, which is red, and we'll just duplicate that out and we'll put it into the next block, and I'll call this green. Now what I'm going to show you in a second is basically how Zenler deals with blocks put in this way and how it works with responsiveness. So this is pretty common. What you're going to see in a minute is pretty common to most sort of what's called bootstrapping designs, where it actually takes something and it actually puts it underneath. There's lots of frameworks. You'll see this happening quite commonly on systems like WordPress, where blocks will be moved around underneath to allow the space for those blocks to move in. So let's have a look at this now. I'm going to go to save this, and I'm going to click done. We're going to just preview this now. So I'm previewing this. I've got, obviously I have it in Chrome, and we're going to preview this page. So this is what it looks like on a desktop. So if I start to take this block and actually close up the browser, what you'll see is it will drop down. So what is happening here? So what's happening when it hasn't got enough content to fit all of that 1, 2, 3 rows in, it'll actually drop the content down. So it'll take the green row that's next to here and it will throw it underneath the red row, and the blue row will go underneath the green row, and that's giving us responsive behavior. As you can see, there we go. We've got responsive behavior happening. So just by looking at that, you now have a really good idea on how Zenler uses the rows to move stuff underneath each other. So let's cause a problem here. And this is probably one of the main problems that people have with the system, is they'll stretch things too far. So I'm going to go and create another block now, and I'm going to make this an empty block. And I'm just going to grab that block and drag it across to here, and we're just going to put in here one row, and I'm going to go and click this row here, and we're going to go in and we're going to click inside here for one row, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to add a heading font in here, and I'm going to call this squeeze. Now you're going to see why I'm going to call it squeeze in a minute, because we're going to get some very weird behavior. So I'm going to go to the settings here, and I'm going to make this font really big. So I'm actually going to make it about 90. Okay, probably bigger actually. Let's make it like 120. Let's go really big. So it looks really good on desktop. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that, and we're going to check this out in responsiveness. So let's go back to this page. Let's just refresh it. And there we go, it looks lovely. Let's start to bring this down in size now. And what you're going to see is actually going to wrap that text. See, that text is wrapping. If you look down here, this is appearing on the bottom row. So you need to be really careful with the browser when you're bringing this down. Now I'm looking at this in a browser, and this browser doesn't give me what it looks like in mobile. It will just close the browser up to the minimum the browser will go, but it doesn't give me a really good look at it. So there's two ways I can look at it. I can look at it in Chrome by right hand clicking and going down to inspect. It's going to open up my little inspection tab here. Now what you might not know from this inspection tab, don't get too worried about this, but there's a little button here, and this allows you to toggle the device toolbar. If I click this, you're going to see how it looks on different devices. So you can see how it's behaving on a 400 by 962 screen. We can put it to like an iPhone X. So this is what it's going to look like on an iPhone X. Now it doesn't look very good, but this little table gives you a good way to work with things. So I can come into this now and I can go, right, okay, well I can't go that big, it's too big. So let's just take this down to like 55. Okay, let's just save it out now. And now let's check it in the responsiveness. So I'm just going to hit the refresh here. And now we're going to have something that's working much better in this device. Now there's more to it than just that. So we're now going to take this a stage further now. I'm going to take this row that we're in, this green row, okay, and we're going to do something in here that's going to cause a problem that you might not see on the desktop version. So I'm going to click the little gear icon, and I'm going to take the spacing left and right up to 100. So I'm maxing all of these things out. So I'm going to go to even the padding inside here. I'm going to take the padding left, and I'm going to take the padding right. Everything looks good in here. Okay, you can see everything looks good, but we've really pushed those values. Not only have I pushed the spacing from the left and the right, but I've also taken the inside of the box and I've pushed the padding to 100 as well. Now let's watch what happens when we look at it inside of the browser. So I'm going to go back to this, I'm going to hit the refresh, and now we are going to get some weird results going on. Look at this. It's pushed it in, it's not even across there. If I switch the mobile off, it looks good in there. But even if I take the browser and I start to bring the browser in, well, you're going to start to get some really weird things going on. So this is basically because we have put these massive amounts on the spacing left and right here. So it's not really adding anything, it's just you're looking at it and you're not really seeing the full picture because you're not seeing what it's like on a mobile. So my suggestion is to try and make minimal changes to the spacing or the padding. Try not to push it. If you get this thing where the text is all being pushed down into one line when you look at stuff in responsiveness, it's probably due to either your row or your element having extra right and left spacing or right and left padding, because you know you can change the spacing on the element here and the padding, and you can also do it on the row. So this is the major cause of it. Now, as I've shown you a little tip here, you can just do that inspector. Let me just do it again. Right hand click, go down to inspect, and you've got this little thing come up. This is in Google Chrome, where you can turn it on and check this in different devices on here. Okay, so this is really handy. Another way you can do it is to actually go and check it in your devices. So when you're working, generally you're working in all devices, but you can check it how it looks on each device. So how it looks on a tablet, how it looks on a desktop, sorry, how it looks on a tablet, and how it looks on a mobile device. Okay, so if you start to move these things around like this and this, and you start to get unusual effects going on, it's generally because you've put all this padding or this spacing in something like this. So I'm trying to get this to cause an error, and it even looks good in here, but it's actually not. So always double check it using this little tip that I've given you in here. So that's kind of how it works. Now you can change things per device. So we're going to look at that in a second, how you can actually change things by default. So what we've looked at so far is what happens with the rows if they stack underneath each other, what happens by excessively putting too much spacing and sometimes too much padding in at the same time to give you no more visual effect, but to actually really mess up your mobile view. So what we're going to look at next is how we can actually do alterations per device inside of Zenler. And then after that, I'm going to show you another way that we can actually turn blocks on and off depending on device size. So we're going to look at that right now. Okay, so let's look at how we can make alterations basically based by device type. So I'm going to come back to here and just make sure that this is all as it should be. Okay, they're all on 0. So this is a good way to preset stuff and make sure that everything's good. So there we go. So say on the desktop version, I want this text type to be much bigger. Now this doesn't work for all objects, by the way, but it does work for a lot of them. So let's go in here and take our font and put it to 150. So it's really big. Okay, so looks lovely. Okay, let's look on this in responsive mode while it's in iPhone 6, 7 or 8. And we got a big problem. Okay, so how can we fix this? Really easy, guys. We can set a different font size per device. So if we come down to our little icon here, you can see it's 150 in here. Let's jump to our mobile device. You can see it's really big, it's going off screen. It's not giving us an exact preview like this, but it is giving us a preview that something wrong is going on. So let's take this now and set it to something better. Let's put it on to something like 50. So that's going to look better on this device. Okay, so let's just save this now. And let's go and check it. Let's let that save. And let's go and check. So I'm going to come into responsive mode now. I'm going to hit the refresh. And as you can see, we've come down, but it's not quite far enough. Now, I think I've probably got some padding or something on here. Yeah, I've got this set 100. So let me just take those back and save it. Jump back into this, hit the refresh button, and it's perfect. But watch what happens when I turn this off. So there, I've got my big text, and now when I go to responsive mode for the mobile, it's small. So what's happening? Well, what's actually happening if we look at this element inside here and we go to desktop version, you're going to see that the font size shows 150. But when we go to our mobile version, it's only going to show 50. So we could also set this on the tablet as well. So I could go to tablet mode, and inside a tablet I could set this on 100. So now I'm going to have 3 variations of this font size for different devices, all under the one block. So now if I go into here and I refresh and I turn this off, I'm just going to turn it off in here, and we're just going to manually squeeze this down. You're going to see that we are at 50. Now it's going to go to 100, and now when we get to the bottom it's going to go to 50. It doesn't go down far enough on here, so I'd have to switch on the device to actually see it on a mobile. So like that. Okay, so you can also go in here and you can actually change this. So I could do Galaxy, Surface Duo, you can see that's at 100. So you can see that you can do it per device on these things. Now that's how you can do it in there. You could also go in if you wanted to, and I'm not sure this is going to work, but on mobile I'm going to try to change a color. Like I said, some of the options are available and some are not. So we're on the desktop version now. Okay, so with it on desktop version, I'm going to change this to a red, and I'm I'm going to, on mobiles, I'm going to change it to a green, and tablet I'm going to leave on a black. So you can see when I go through these, it's going to give me a different color at different device levels inside here. So let's try this out. Let's go into here, let's hit the refresh button. You're going to see that this will change. Let me turn it off. It's gone to the red, and if I bring this in, it's going to change. So I go to red, and then if I go to mobile, it's going to change to the green if I get down low enough. There we go. So you can see how you can change it per device, but be really careful with this, because you won't start putting extra padding and stuff in each one. You need to go through and test all of these, either in here and also use Chrome's inspector to turn on that responsiveness in there. So that is how you can change it. Now there's quite a few other settings you can go in and change per device level, but as a general rule of thumb, you should always start and try and get everything to work in all devices, and then make minor tweaks on the mobile and the tablet version. So we're talking minor tweaks, you know, so then you know what's happening in your site. You're not pushing things too much. Always test. Okay, so now what we're going to look at is how we can create a different block per device. So on this one, let's go and duplicate this block out. So I've duplicated this block out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the order of these. So I'm going to come into here, this block here, and I'm going to change this to a yellow. Let's change it to an orange actually. Let's go and change this one. Let's go into here. We'll change it to something completely different, like a purple. Okay, and then finally I'm going to come into this one, and I'm going to change this to a black. Okay, now I'm going to come into here and I'm just going to label these. Okay, and finally this orange. Okay, let's save it. Okay, let's check it. I'm going to come out of responsiveness, and then I'm going to refresh, control and refresh. So there we go, I've got two blocks. Okay, so what if inside here I want only this block to apply to maybe mobiles? So there's a few ways I can do this. I can actually take the block here, and this works with main blocks, rows or elements. Okay, so when I show it to you on this blue block, the same settings will apply to rows and elements. This is important to note. So I'm going to go to the setting tab here, and over here I'm actually going to go to settings, and I'm going to say for this to be hidden on tablet and mobile. Now you'll notice it's disappeared. It's still there, but it's disappeared. So let's come out of this now and say we only want this to appear on a mobile. So I'm going to come in here. So I only appear on on a desktop and tablet. So I'm going to say hide on mobile. So let's go back. Let's refresh this. And let's check it out. Let's go into here, let's hit the refresh button, and now we only have one block. But if I reduce it down, it's going to get rid of that one, or it should. Hold on, let me just refresh. 2 seconds, let me jump in. Put that to mobile. Good. All right. Sometimes you can get a bit confused by this. So let me take this block here and make it available for tablet. It's available for desktop and for tablet. Okay, good. And this one's available for mobile. Okay, that's good. Right, let's hit save. Go into this now, refresh. Okay, so we got that on desktop. As I bring it down, still there. But let's go and check this out on mobile. Right hand click, inspect. And there you go, the green ones come up. So you can see that I've turned the other one off on those other devices. It pops up when the screen gets big enough. And there we go, it flops between them. So you can actually tell the system. Now sometimes when you're working in here, it can be hard to know where all your blocks are because you've got to come in here and actually jump to them. So if you want to see all of your blocks, we have a little manage blocks that allows you to go and turn them all on or turn them all off. So if I say hide on all, you can actually see in here that I've got that turned off, and I can turn all these back off if I want to, and I can reset it up if I want to in here. So this sometimes makes it easy. You know, this is block 1, so I could say hide on block 1 here. So I could say hide on this, hide on all, or only hide on tablet. And I could go to block 3 and say hide on here. So the manage of blocks is quite a good way of working, but it's really up to you how you want to work with it. So that's how you can actually hide individual blocks based on something. So this is a bit like I do lots of websites, and in the past I've done completely brand new websites for just mobile devices and tablets, and then I've done a completely different one for a desktop. So I've just changed the layout of the way that it's all working for different devices. It's similar to how we're doing here. We're hiding blocks, showing blocks. Now if you think about it, we could do a whole desktop version. We could have 5 blocks in a row, all visible on desktop. Then you could do another 5 blocks, and you could actually change them and make them work for mobile. The problem with that is it is very time consuming. You would need to do that on each page. So if you can use the generic way, you can make sure that these are working, the blocks are working across all devices. It's going to speed up your production. But if you need to tweak things, you can come along here and tweak them at a device level. So we've looked now at rows and how they work, how they go underneath each other depending on the content and the size of the browser. We've looked at hiding elements and changing elements actually in screen, and we've also turned off how to hide whole blocks or certain elements on a page. Because remember, although I showed you how to hide it in settings here, we also can do this per level. So you can actually go to this row in here, and you're going to see you've got the same settings, so you could hide that on a particular device if you wanted to. We could also go into the actual element itself, and again we've still got those settings, so you could come into there and you could hide that on something in there as well. So if I wanted to hide this green, let me do a duplicate and show you. Let's go and do a duplicate. So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to call this something. Okay. So for this, I'm going to turn this off for desktop something. This just shows you the flexibility of it. So I'm going to turn this off for desktop. It's disappeared, you see. And I'm going to turn this off for mobile. So I want to hide this on mobile. Okay. So now let's have a look at this. Let's go back to the settings here. Let's look at it in mobile. You can see it says something. We go to tablet, it says green and something, and it just goes green there. So you can actually change the text in there even though you have 2 blocks inside. All right, this is really important to see all your elements. Again, you can come down here and you can go to manage blocks, and you can see which ones are turned on and which ones are turned off, so you can default them back really quickly. So really cool techniques there, so you can see how much control you have at different device levels inside Zenler. So a lot of people have said it doesn't work very well with mobiles and tablets. It doesn't look right. The only reason it doesn't look right is because you need to learn what you're doing with this kind of stuff. It's quite easy, just as I said, work with all devices, make minor changes in a device level if it's not working, such as changing the size of a font. You can see I can even change the color at device levels. I can even turn certain elements off at device levels. So you've got full control. You can even create a brand new block with different content on and turn it on for mobile, turn it off for tablet and desktop, or just have it on for tablet, or turn something off for whatever you like. So you could do 3 blocks up. You could turn one on for desktop, turn the other one on for mobile, and the other one on for tablet. So you have this full control in there. And the only reason that you're having problems is you're not understanding this principle of how it works. I'm really hoping this video will clarify responsive issues that you're having with your Zenler platform, and how you can avoid, and how you can fix, and how you can diagnose a problem that's happening with your site.